The Mafia boss hired a fat hospice aide to care for his dying grandmother, then realized the poor girl everyone ignored was the only person in his empire who could see the truth. Mara Solano arrived at the Gilded Lantern with one suitcase, 2 pairs of worn shoes, and a debt collector's message still glowing on her phone. The hotel rose from the New Jersey coast, like something built for people who did not believe in consequences. Gold windows, black marble steps, lanterns burning beside the entrance even in daylight. Beyond it, the Atlantic rolled under a gray sky, restless and cold, as if the sea itself knew what kind of men came here after midnight. Mara stood at the bottom of the stairs in her Navy hospice uniform, rain spotting her sleeves, and watched a valet move a car worth more than every apartment she had ever lived in. For one foolish second, she wondered if she had come to the wrong place. Then a guard in a black coat looked down at her shoes, her suitcase, her round body, her tired face, and the little folder of medical certificates clutched under her arm. His eyes said what people's eyes had been saying to Mara since she was a child. Too big, too poor, too soft, too easy to move aside. Mara lifted her chin anyway. "I'm here for Mrs. Voss," she said. The guard did not smile. "Nobody calls her that inside." Mara held his stare. "Then I'll ask her what she likes to be called." That was the first mistake, though she did not know it yet. At the Gilded Lantern, people did not ask what anyone liked. They followed rules. They lowered their voices. They looked at the floor when certain doors opened. They said yes before the order was finished. The hotel was private, which meant it had no sign outside, no front desk for normal travelers, no bright brochures promising ocean views and weekend discounts. It had casino rooms behind velvet walls, restaurants without menus, elevators opened by palm scan, and guests who arrived in tinted cars after the beach town went quiet. Mara had worked in hospice homes where families whispered beside hospital beds, in nursing centers that smelled like bleach and old soup, and in small apartments where grief sat openly in every chair. But this place did not feel like grief. It felt like money trying to hide blood under perfume. A woman named Elise met her in the lobby. She was tall, sharp-faced, and dressed in a cream suit that probably hated wrinkles. She did not shake Mara's hand. She only looked at the folder, then at Mara, as if both were disappointing but useful. "You'll sleep in the East Service Wing," Elise said, already walking. "You'll assist with Mrs. Zora Voss from morning through evening, unless she refuses you. She refuses most people. You'll also help with laundry, meal trays, room turnover for private guests, and household errands when requested." Mara followed with her suitcase bumping against her leg. "I was told this was a care position." Elise glanced back. "It is. Care here means whatever the house needs." Mara swallowed the answer sitting on her tongue. She needed this job. She needed the advance. She needed 3 months of steady pay, maybe 4, if she could keep her head down and her mouth shut. Her father had been dead for 9 months, but the bills he left behind still arrived like he was mailing them from the grave. Her younger sister's court fees had turned every week into a math problem Mara could not solve. Rent, debt, medicine, phone, food, payment plan, another payment plan, then the ugly little space where hope should have been. So Mara kept walking. Elise led her past a dining room where chandeliers glowed above empty tables and into a staff corridor with low ceilings and white walls. The beauty vanished the moment they crossed the wrong doorway. Here, carts rolled quietly, maids moved quickly, kitchen workers spoke in murmurs, guards stood at corners, not like hotel security, but like men waiting for something to go wrong. Elise stopped near a private elevator and turned with a small silver card in her hand. "Rules," she said. "You do not enter the top-floor counting room. You do not ask about visitors after midnight. You do not bring your phone into Mrs. Voss's suite. You do not photograph, record, repeat, or guess about anything you see. You do not speak to Mr. Voss unless he speaks to you first. You do not leave the property during assigned hours. You do not discuss Mrs. Voss's condition with anyone except me, the doctor, or Mr. Voss. Mara listened carefully. She had learned young that rules told you more about a house than furniture ever could. These rules did not sound like they were made to protect an old woman. They sounded like they were made to protect secrets from her. "Does Mrs. Voss have a care plan?" Mara asked. Elise's mouth tightened. "She has preferences." "That's not the same thing." "No," Elise said. "It is not. But here, preferences become instructions when Mr. Voss gives them." The elevator opened before Mara could answer. 2 men stood inside. One stepped out immediately, broad shoulders, dark suit, expression empty. The other remained by the back wall, and for a moment, the entire corridor changed around him. Mara felt it before she understood it. The staff stopped moving. Elise straightened. Even the guard beside the elevator seemed to become part of the wall. The man inside was not old, maybe late 30s, but he carried stillness like age. Black hair, pale eyes, no wasted movement. His suit was simple and dark, but nothing about him felt simple. Mara had seen men with authority before. Doctors, judges, police officers, debt collectors who smiled while ruining lives. This was different. This man did not need to raise his voice because the world had already leaned closer to hear him. "Nikolai," Elise said softly. So this was Nikolai Voss, owner of the Gilded Lantern, controller of gambling rooms, docks, protection routes, and half the underground economy along the coast, if the rumors were true. Mara had heard his name only once before accepting the job. The woman at the agency had said it quickly, then looked away. Private client, high pay, strict confidentiality, live-in, difficult patient. When Mara asked difficult how, the woman had only said, "The grandmother is not the dangerous one." Nikolai's gaze moved to Mara, not slowly, not rudely, but thoroughly enough that she felt measured. Most people looked at her body first, and her face second. Nikolai did the same, but not in the usual way. There was no smirk, no pity, no quick dismissal. He looked like a man reading a document that might contain a hidden clause. Mara hated that she noticed the difference. "This is the new Aide?" he asked. "Yes," Elise said. "Mara Solano." Mara waited for him to say what others had said in softer forms, that the work was physical, that his grandmother could be difficult, that the stairs were long, that some patients required lifting, that perhaps the agency had misunderstood what was needed. Instead, Nikolai looked at the folder in her arms. "You worked hospice. For 6 years. Dementia patients? Yes. Combative. Afraid," Mara said, before she could stop herself. Elise's eyes cut toward her. Mara felt the mistake immediately, but the word was already in the corridor. Nikolai did not blink. "People call them combative when they don't want to admit they scared them first," Mara added, quieter now. Something moved behind Nikolai's eyes. Not warmth, not approval. Something sharper and harder to name. "My grandmother does not like strangers. Most people don't when strangers keep deciding what's best for them." The silence after that was not loud. It was worse. Elise looked like she was already drafting Mara's dismissal in her head. One of the guards stared at the elevator numbers. Mara's face grew hot, but she did not apologize. She had spent too many years apologizing for taking up space in rooms that still expected her to clean them. Nikolai stepped out of the elevator. He was taller than she expected. Close enough now that she caught the faint scent of tobacco, sea air and expensive soap. "Do not force her," he said. Mara nodded. "I won't. If she tells you to leave, you leave." "I'll leave the room," Mara said. "Not the area." His gaze narrowed. "Explain." "If she wants me gone because she needs control, I'll give her the room. If she needs help 10 minutes later, I'll be close enough to hear her. That's different from abandoning her." Elise inhaled softly, almost annoyed. Nikolai studied Mara for another second. Then he said, "Show her up." The suite was on the private side of the hotel, where the carpet became thicker, and the hallway lights turned soft and amber. Outside Zora Voss's door sat a small table with untouched tea, a folded shawl, and a vase of white lilies that smelled too clean. Mara noticed the lilies first. Strong floral scents could upset memory patients. So could unfamiliar objects placed too close to a doorway. So could too many people talking at once. She noticed other things too. The chair beside the door faced away from the room, as if aides were expected to guard the patient, not sit with her. A tray of pills waited under a glass cover. No labels visible, no schedule sheet, no familiar photos on the wall. Whoever had arranged this place had made it beautiful and empty. Elise knocked once, then opened the door without waiting. A thin voice snapped from inside. "No." Elise sighed. "Zora, we have someone new." I said no. Mara remained behind Elise, not entering. The room beyond was large and filled with expensive softness. Pale rugs, heavy curtains, a balcony facing the sea. Near the window sat an old woman in a plum-colored robe, white hair braided over one shoulder, one hand gripping the arm of her chair. Zora Voss looked fragile only if a person did not understand old women. Mara had cared for enough of them to know the difference between weakness and warning. Zora's body looked tired. Her eyes did not. "This is Mara," Elise said. "She'll be helping you." "No," Zora repeated. "She's not mine. Send her away." Elise's smile sharpened. "You cannot keep rejecting every aid." Zora picked up a small silver hairbrush from the table and threw it. It struck the carpet near Elise's shoe. Elise stepped back, more offended than frightened. "This is exactly what I mean." Mara set down her suitcase outside the door. "Mrs. Voss," she said gently. Zora's eyes flashed. "Don't call me that." Mara nodded once. "What should I call you?" The question seemed to bother the room more than the thrown brush had. Elise turned. Zora stared. For a moment her mouth opened, then closed again, as if the answer had been moved somewhere she could not reach. "I don't know you," she said. "No," Mara said. "You don't. Then go." "All right." Mara lowered herself onto the hallway chair outside the suite. It creaked under her weight. She ignored Elise's look and folded her hands in her lap. "I'll sit here for a while. I won't come in unless you ask, or unless I think you're hurt." Zora frowned from across the room. "That is still bothering me." "I know. I said go away." "I heard you. Then why are you there?" "Because away can mean many things," Mara said. "This is the kind where you still get to be alone, but not helpless." Zora stared at her. Elise looked deeply irritated. "This is not how we handle her." Mara kept her eyes on Zora. "How has handling her worked so far?" Elise stepped closer and lowered her voice. "You are very new here." "Yes," Mara said. "That's why I'm still hopeful." For the next 3 hours, Mara sat outside Zora's door. Elise left after the first 15 minutes, stiff with disapproval. A nurse came by and asked if Mara wanted help making Zora cooperate. Mara said no. A maid passed with towels and whispered that Zora once made a caregiver cry before breakfast. Mara said some mornings deserved crying. The maid looked startled, then smiled before hurrying away. Inside the room, Zora muttered to herself. Once, she cursed in a language Mara did not know. Once, she called for someone named Abram. Once, she told Mara to stop breathing so loudly. Mara apologized and breathed quieter. She did not scroll on her phone. She did not sigh. She did not perform patience for anyone watching. She simply stayed. Near dusk, the sea darkened beyond the windows. The hotel lights warmed. Somewhere below, a piano began playing for guests who would never be allowed near this hallway. Mara's back ached. Her knees hurt. Her stomach growled because she had been too nervous to eat the sandwich she packed. Then Zora spoke from inside the suite, softer than before. "The lilies smell like a funeral." Mara turned her head. "They do." "Who put them there?" "I don't know." "Take them away." Mara stood carefully, waiting in case Zora changed her mind. She did not. So Mara entered the room for the first time, slow enough for every step to be a question. She picked up the vase, carried it into the hallway, and set it on the floor far from the door. When she came back, Zora was watching her. "You're bigger than the others." Mara had heard that sentence in 100 different tones. Mocking, concerned, cruel, curious. Zora's tone was none of those. It was only observation, blunt as weather. "Yes," Mara said. "Good," Zora said. "The thin ones look like birds, always fluttering." Mara almost laughed. She caught it in time, but not completely. Zora saw and narrowed her eyes. "Are you laughing at me?" "No. Good. I hate that. I was laughing because I knew a woman once who said the same thing about hospital administrators." Zora leaned back a little. Smart woman. She was terrifying. Better. That was all the welcome Mara got. It was enough. By the second day, Zora allowed Mara to bring tea, but not touch the cup. By the third, she allowed Mara to open the curtains halfway. By the fourth, she let Mara sit inside the room, though only in the chair near the door. Zora asked the same questions again and again. "Where is Abram? Why is the music gone? Who moved my blue scarf? Why does the house sound different?" Each time, other staff answered with facts that cut like clean knives. "Your husband is dead. The music box is broken. You misplaced the scarf. This is a hotel, not the old house." They said these things kindly, but kindness did not stop Zora from shrinking afterward, humiliated by every correction. Mara saw it, so she stopped answering the way the world expected. When Zora asked where Abram was, Mara said, "What was he like in the morning?" Zora frowned. "Who?" "Abram." "My husband," Zora said, offended. "Yes." Zora looked toward the window. For a few seconds, the fog in her eyes shifted. "He smelled like cedar and oranges." "Don't ask me why. The man never ate fruit unless I peeled it." Mara smiled. "Did he sit here with you?" "No. He hated this room." "Why?" "Too much gold." He said gold was what poor men thought rich men wanted. Mara glanced around the suite. He may have had a point. Zora's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Close enough. After that, Mara collected pieces of Zora slowly. Not like evidence, like shells from the beach. Abram liked black coffee and burnt toast. Zora had once danced barefoot in a restaurant kitchen because the band was terrible and she wanted to save the evening. She had raised Nikolai after his parents disappeared, though some days she said they died, and some days she said they left, and once she said they were taken by men who wore Sunday shoes in the rain. Mara did not correct that either. She only listened. She learned that Zora hated lilies, loved lemon soap, disliked being called sweet, and remembered old prayers better when her hands held something worn. She learned that Zora's wedding ring had been removed after she scratched a nurse during a bathing attempt. She learned that nobody had asked Zora whether she wanted it back. The first time Nikolai saw Mara holding his grandmother's hand, he stopped in the doorway like the sight had struck him somewhere private. Zora was asleep in her chair, her fingers curled around Mara's thumb. Mara did not move. The room was dim. Rain tapped the balcony glass. On the table sat half a bowl of seafood stew Mara had convinced the kitchen to let her make, after Zora described it 6 times in one afternoon. Clams, tomato, garlic, fennel, whitefish, a little pepper. Not fancy enough for the hotel, according to the chef. Too much trouble, according to Elise. But Zora had eaten almost all of it, and near the end, she had whispered, "My mother made this when storms came." Nikolai looked at the bowl, then at Zora's sleeping face. She ate. Yes, she has not eaten a full meal in 11 days. Mara lowered her voice. She ate because it was hers. His eyes shifted to her. Food is food. No, Mara said, not to someone losing pieces of her life. Food can be a doorway. Nikolai said nothing. Mara wondered if she had gone too far. Again. But fear had never made her better at telling the truth. It only made her voice quieter. He stepped into the room and stopped beside his grandmother's chair. His hand lifted as if he meant to touch Zora's hair, then lowered before it reached her. Mara noticed. So did he. That seemed to anger him, though not at her. The doctor says routine matters. The right routine does. She becomes upset when we change things. She becomes upset when changes happen to her without explanation. She forgets explanations, then explain again. His jaw tightened. You speak as if patience is simple. No, I speak as if it is necessary. Outside, thunder rolled over the ocean. Zora stirred but did not wake. Nikolai looked down at Mara's hand still held in his grandmother's. She trusts you. Not always. Enough to sleep. Mara did not know what to say to that. There was something almost painful in his voice, hidden under control. She had heard that tone from family members beside hospice beds. The ones who would pay anything, threaten anyone, call every specialist in the state, but still did not know how to sit quietly with the person they loved. Power made some people louder around helplessness. Nikolai had gone silent. She doesn't need to be managed like a problem, Mara said. She needs to be believed when she tells you what her world feels like. His eyes came back to her, cold, pale, difficult. Believed even when what she says is impossible? Feelings are rarely impossible. That is not an answer. It is the only answer that helps. For a moment, Mara thought he might dismiss her. Not just from the room, from the job, from the hotel, from the strange, dangerous little life she had only begun to understand. Instead, Nikolai looked at his grandmother again. There was a music box, he said quietly. Blue enamel, silver key. She broke it last winter. May I see it? Why? Because she asks where the music went. The next morning, a guard brought the music box in a velvet pouch. It was smaller than Mara expected, chipped at the corner, hollow at the base, with a painted lantern on the lid, and a tiny crack across the mirror inside. The tune caught after 3 notes. Mara spent 2 evenings at the small desk in her service room with a lamp, a sewing needle, and a repair video she had watched before surrendering her phone each morning. She was not a clockmaker. She was not even especially handy. But hospice had taught her that love often lived in small repairs no one else considered worth the trouble. A button sewn back on a dead man's favorite sweater, a pillow turned to the cool side, a radio tuned to the station a woman remembered from 1958. So Mara tried. On the 3rd evening, the music played. It was thin and uneven, but it played. Zora cried when she heard it. Not loudly, not dramatically. Tears simply moved down her face, while the little tune turned through the room like a key finding an old lock. Mara sat beside her and did not ask why. After a while, Zora whispered, "Abram gave me that before Nikolai was born." Mara's hand stilled. "Before?" Zora blinked. The present returned in pieces. "No, before he came to me." Her fingers tightened around the music box. The boy never cried. That was how I knew something terrible had happened. Babies cry when they are hungry. Children cry when they are scared. Nikolai just watched the door. Mara looked up and saw Nikolai standing outside the room. Zora did not see him. Or maybe she did and had traveled too far back to care. "He still watches doors," Mara said softly. Zora nodded. "Because everyone who loved him left through one." Nikolai turned and walked away before either woman could speak again. After that, he began appearing more often, never casually. Men like Nikolai probably did not know how to be casual. He came to ask whether Zora had eaten, whether she had slept, whether she had taken her medication. At first, he asked Elise, then the doctor, then gradually Mara. He did not thank her. He did not smile. But when Mara said Zora needed lemon soap appeared. When she said the lilies had to go, they vanished from every private hall. When she said the room needed older photographs instead of polished portraits, 3 boxes arrived from storage. Mara spread them across Zora's bed, and for nearly an hour, Zora named faces everyone thought she had forgotten. That was when Vivienne Armand came to the suite with pearls at her throat and concern arranged perfectly on her face. She entered with Nikolai, one hand resting lightly on his arm. She was beautiful in a way that felt practiced until it became natural. Smooth blonde hair, soft perfume, white coat, diamond earrings small enough to suggest taste and large enough to announce money. "Grandmother," she said warmly. Zora's face changed. Not fear, not confusion. Something closer to dislike sharpened by memory. "I am not your grandmother," Zora said. Vivienne gave a gentle laugh and looked at Nikolai as if sharing a private sadness. She has been saying that lately. Mara stood near the tea tray, invisible in her black uniform, which was usually how rich people preferred service workers. Nikolai's eyes moved briefly to Zora, then to Vivienne. "She says many things." "Yes," Vivienne said. "That is what worries me." She crossed the room and picked up the music box from the side table without asking. Zora's hand reached out immediately. "Put that down." Vivienne smiled. "This old thing? It's chipped. We should find you something safer. No sharp edges." "It is mine." "Of course." Vivienne's voice stayed honey-soft as she set the music box on a higher shelf, just out of reach. "We only want what is best for you." Mara felt her stomach tighten. There it was, the sentence people used when they had already stopped listening. Zora looked at Mara, not at Nikolai. At Mara. So Mara walked to the shelf, took down the music box, and placed it back in Zora's hands. The room went still. Vivienne turned very slowly. Nikolai said nothing. Mara kept her voice calm. "She can hold it while I'm here." Vivienne's smile remained, but something behind it cooled. "And if she throws it?" "Then I'll pick it up." She could hurt herself. "Yes," Mara said. "Living people can." For 1 second, Vivienne's face showed what her voice never would. Annoyance, sharp and bright. Then she laughed softly. "You must be the new Aide." "Mara, is it?" "Yes. How lovely that you're trying so hard." The words were sweet. The meaning was not. Mara knew that tone. She had heard it from nurses who thought aides were furniture, from women at court offices who looked at her sister's case number and saw trash, from customers who called her sweetheart because they wanted her to remember her place. She lowered her eyes, not from shame, but because anger was expensive here. Vivienne turned to Nikolai. "We really should speak with Dr. Havel about the institution I mentioned, just as an option, somewhere peaceful, private, away from all this noise." Zora's fingers tightened around the music box until her knuckles paled. Nikolai noticed his grandmother's hand. Mara noticed him noticing. Vivienne noticed both of them and moved closer to him. "Darling, you cannot run a hotel, a casino, your family business, and a hospital ward for one old woman. Love does not mean keeping her trapped in a place that confuses her." Zora looked toward the balcony, face gone blank in the way patience sometimes disappeared when the room became too cruel to stay in. Mara wanted to speak. She wanted to say Zora was not confused by the hotel. She was confused by people touching her things, changing her soap, moving her chair, calling her fragile, speaking over her, and then blaming the illness when she fought back. But Mara was still the hired girl, the fat aide in the corner, the woman with debt curled around her ankles, the woman who needed this job badly enough to taste fear whenever Elise looked her way. Nikolai's voice cut through the quiet. "Not now." Vivienne's smile softened again, perfect as a closed door. "Of course, not now." But as she turned to leave, her eyes passed over Mara, and Mara felt the warning as clearly as if it had been whispered against her ear. That night, Zora refused dinner. She sat with the music box pressed to her chest and stared at the winter garden below the balcony, where glass walls reflected the dark sea. Mara sat near the window, saying nothing, letting the old woman breathe through whatever storm had opened inside her. Nearly an hour passed before Zora spoke. She touches his face when she thinks no one sees. Mara turned slowly. "Who?" "The blonde one." "Vivienne?" Zora's mouth twisted. Pretty snake. Mara kept her expression gentle. Whose face does she touch? Zora looked at her then, fully present for one clean and frightening second. Dorian's. Mara had heard the name in staff whispers. Dorian Creel, Nikolai's advisor, his right hand, the man who handled numbers, routes, quiet meetings, and problems that did not go through official doors. In the Winter Garden? Mara asked. Zora nodded. Closed room, rain on the glass. His hand here. She touched the side of her own face. No woman touches a man like that unless she has forgotten who she promised to marry. A chill moved through Mara, soft and slow. The next morning, Nikolai came to ask about Zora's sleep. Mara told him exactly what Zora had said. She expected anger. Instead, she saw something worse. Calculation, followed by refusal. He checked Dorian's schedule on his phone. His face hardened. Dorian was across town last night. Mara folded her hands. Maybe it was another night. She said rain. It did not rain the night before. Then maybe the schedule is wrong. His eyes lifted. Dorian does not lie to me. Mara did not look away. Maybe your grandmother doesn't either. For the first time since she arrived, Nikolai looked at her, as if she had stepped over a line he had not shown her. The air between them changed. Not violent. Not yet, but dangerous. She has dementia, he said. Yes, Mara said softly. She also has eyes. His jaw tightened. Be careful. Mara felt fear open under her ribs. She thought of her debt, her sister, the suitcase under her bed, the fact that one word from him could send her back to nothing. But she also thought of Zora holding that music box like proof she had once been loved correctly. So Mara nodded. I am being careful. That's why I'm telling you. Nikolai did not answer her. He only looked at Mara for a long moment, as if he were deciding whether her courage was honesty or foolishness. Then he turned and walked out of Zora's suite without another word. The door closed behind him with a soft click, but the silence he left behind felt heavier than a slam. Mara stood beside the tea tray with her hands folded so tightly her fingers hurt. Zora watched the door, then looked at Mara with an expression that shifted between fear, anger, and a strange old sadness. He was a little boy once, she whispered. People forget that. Mara turned toward her. I don't think you do. Zora's mouth trembled. I remember too much on the wrong days, and not enough on the right ones. Mara crossed the room slowly and sat near her. Not too close, never too close unless Zora reached first. Then we'll write down what matters, she said. Zora looked at the music box in her lap. Paper burns. Then we'll hide it somewhere better. After that, Mara began keeping notes. Not the kind of notes the hotel wanted in Zora's official care file, where words were softened until they stopped meaning anything. Agitated, confused, non-compliant, refused meal, disturbed sleep. Mara wrote the real things in a small brown notebook she kept inside the lining of her suitcase. Zora slept badly after Vivian visited. Zora ate well when no one corrected her. Zora remembered Abram clearly after hearing the music box. Zora became afraid when Dorian's name was spoken near the hall. Zora was sharper on mornings when Mara made tea herself. Zora was worse on mornings when the new nurse came. The new nurse arrived 2 days after Mara told Nikolai about the Winter Garden. Her name was Celia Brandt, and she wore pale blue scrubs, pearl earrings, and a smile that never reached the tired part of her eyes. Elise said she had been recommended by Vivienne personally, which told Mara almost everything she needed to know. Celia spoke to Zora in a voice people used for babies and very small dogs. She called her darling. She moved her chair without warning. She took the music box from Zora's hands and said fragile things belonged on shelves. The first time she brought tea, Mara noticed the cup had already been stirred. What is that? Mara asked. Celia looked up. Tea. I made her tea 30 minutes ago. Then she's lucky to have 2 cups. Zora stared at the liquid with open dislike. It smells wrong. It's a calming tonic, Celia said. Doctor approved. Which doctor? Celia's smile thinned. The doctor responsible for her care. Mara held out her hand. I'll check the medication sheet. That won't be necessary. It is if she's drinking it. Celia stepped closer, still smiling, her voice dropping low enough that Zora could not hear. You are a live-in aide with laundry duties. Do not confuse proximity with authority. Mara looked at the cup, then at Zora, whose fingers were already twisting in her robe. And you shouldn't confuse a uniform with blindness. The first episode happened that afternoon, just as 3 men in expensive coats arrived for a private meeting with Nikolai. Zora had been bright all morning. She had laughed about a seagull stealing bread from a balcony table. She had remembered the name of a cook who left the hotel 20 years earlier. She had even allowed Mara to braid her hair with a strip of blue ribbon found in one of the storage boxes. Then Celia's tea came. An hour later, Zora stood in the middle of her suite shaking, unable to remember where the bathroom was, whispering that men in Sunday shoes were coming for the boy. Elise rushed in. Vivian arrived 5 minutes later, face soft with perfect concern. Nikolai came last. He saw his grandmother trembling, saw the spilled water on the floor, saw Mara kneeling in front of her with both hands open, telling Zora she was safe. His face closed like a locked gate. Vivian placed a hand on his arm. This is what I've been trying to say gently. Mara did not look at her. She kept her eyes on Zora. Zora, tell me what Abram smelled like. Zora rocked slightly. No. Cedar and oranges, Mara said softly. You told me. He hated gold rooms. He liked burnt toast. He called rich men peacocks when they wore shiny shoes. Zora blinked. Her breathing slowed by a single thread. Vivian's voice turned tight. This is not care. This is indulgence. Mara looked up then. No, this is orientation without humiliation. Nikolai's eyes shifted to her. Can you calm her? I am calming her. She needs a physician, Vivian said. She needs fewer people staring at her like she's already gone, Mara replied. No one spoke for a moment. Then Zora reached for Mara's hand and whispered, Don't let them take me inland. The word inland changed the room. Nikolai heard it. Vivian heard it too, and for the first time, her polished expression cracked at the edge. That night, Mara saved the last mouthful from Zora's tea. She waited until the hall camera turned away during its slow sweep, then poured the liquid into a small glass vial she had taken from an empty vanilla bottle in the kitchen. She hid it inside the hollow base of the broken music box, beneath a loose felt circle she had discovered while repairing the mechanism. Her hands shook while she did it, not because she was afraid of being wrong, because she was afraid of being right. The pattern repeated. On quiet days, when Zora drank only what Mara prepared, she was forgetful but herself. She sang old songs under her breath. She insulted the weather. She called Nikolai stubborn in 3 languages. On important days, when guests came, when lawyers visited, when Vivian brought soft papers and softer threats, Celia arrived with the special tea. Then Zora became foggy, frightened, and easy to dismiss. Mara wrote everything down. Times, names, what Zora ate, what she drank, who entered, who left. When Dorian passed the suite without looking inside. When Vivian removed the prayer book and claimed old religious objects increased fixation. When Zora later cried because her hands felt empty. Mara found the prayer book in a storage closet behind folded tablecloths. Its leather cover was cracked, and pressed between the pages was a photograph of Zora as a young woman, laughing beside a man with dark eyes and a crooked tie. Abram. Mara placed the book back in Zora's lap before breakfast. Zora touched it like it was a living thing. You found me, she said. No, Mara answered. You were never lost. People just stopped looking in the right places. Zora looked at her then, clear and piercing. You are not pretty like the blonde one. Mara almost laughed. No, good. Pretty like that is work. You look like bread. Mara blinked. Bread? Warm. Necessary. People notice cake. then come home for bread. It should not have made Mara's throat tighten, but it did. Most comments about her body had landed like little stones thrown from people who pretended they were only joking. Zora's words landed differently. Strange, blunt, almost holy. Mara looked down and smoothed the blanket across Zora's knees. That might be the nicest thing anyone has ever called me. Then you know fools, Zora said. Mara did know fools. She also knew danger. That danger found her 3 nights later outside the bus station, where she had gone on her approved break to buy toothpaste, cheap socks, and a prepaid envelope for her sister's court payment. A woman in a grey coat stood near the vending machines, watching Mara as if she had been expecting her. Mara Solano? Mara's hand tightened around the plastic bag. No. The woman lifted one eyebrow. That was a very tired lie. I don't know you. Agent Leora Penn. She showed a badge so quickly Mara barely saw it before it vanished. Federal investigation. I need to talk to you about Nikolai Voss. Mara stepped back. I have nothing to say. You work inside the Gilded Lantern. I fold sheets and bring soup to an old woman. And sometimes people who fold sheets see more than people at the table. Mara looked toward the street. A bus sighed at the curb. Rain misted under the station lights. I'm not helping you build a case against my employer. Agent Penn studied her. That's not what I asked. It's what you want. What I want, the agent said, is to know why an elderly woman in that hotel is being made to look unstable right before a politically useful marriage. Mara went still. Penn saw it. Her voice softened. We've been watching Vivian Armand's family for a while. Dorian Creel too. Nikolai is not innocent, Mara. Do not mistake me. But something is shifting inside that hotel, and I think you know who is being crushed under it. Mara's first instinct was to walk away. Her second was to ask every question at once. Instead, she asked only the one that mattered. If someone tries to remove an old woman from her home with legal papers, can anyone stop it? Yes, Penn said, but someone inside would have to prove she's in danger. Mara looked down at the rain shining on her shoes. People like me don't get believed easily. No, Penn said. They don't. That's why they need evidence. Mara did not give the agent the vial. Not yet. She did not give the notebook either. But 2 days later, Zora's talking photo frame recorded something no one meant it to hear. It sat near the window, cycling through old images and allowing Zora to press a button when she wanted to leave voice notes for herself. Mara had turned it on that morning because Zora liked hearing her own younger voice from recordings Nikolai had loaded years before. No one noticed when the device stayed on after Vivian entered with Dorian. Mara was in the bathroom rinsing a washcloth when she heard Vivian say, "She has to be unreliable before the gala." Dorian answered, "She already is. Not enough." Nikolai still hesitates. He hesitates because the old woman raised him. Then make her look like a liability in front of the people he wants to impress. Mara froze with water running over her hands. Vivian's voice lowered. After the wedding, she can be moved inland. Once she is under my guardianship, she will not be a problem. And the aide? A fat girl with debt and a service badge? Vivian gave a soft laugh. Please, if she speaks, she'll look desperate. Mara turned off the water. Her face in the mirror looked calm in a way that frightened her. She waited until they left. Then she removed the memory card from the frame and hid it in her bra until her break. That evening at the bus station, she gave Agent Penn a copy and nothing else. 3 days before the engagement gala, Vivian came to Zora's suite alone. Mara had gone downstairs to argue with the kitchen about serving Zora overcooked fish. She was gone less than 12 minutes. When she returned, Zora sat in her chair, white-faced, clutching the music box so tightly one corner cut into her palm. What happened? Mara whispered. Zora looked at her, eyes wide and clear with terror. She said inland. She said no sea, no Nikolai, no you. Mara knelt before her. Vivian said that? If I speak again. Zora's mouth shook. She said I will wake up far away. Mara took Zora's hand and wrapped the small cut with a napkin. Inside the music box, beneath the hidden felt, the vial waited. The notes waited. The truth waited. Mara felt the shape of the coming confrontation as clearly as weather pressure before a storm. The engagement gala filled the grand theater with people who knew how to smile while measuring what a marriage could buy them. Politicians sat beside casino partners. Judges shook hands with men they pretended not to recognize. Businessmen drank champagne beneath golden lanterns while the ocean battered the windows beyond the curtains. Mara wore a plain black uniform and carried a tray of drinks, moving quietly between tables. She had pinned her hair back, her shoes pinched, her heart had been beating too fast for hours. At the head table, Nikolai sat beside Vivienne. He looked carved from black stone. Vivienne glowed in silver, her hand resting near his, not touching, only claiming the space around him. Dorian stood near the side entrance, speaking softly into his phone. Zora sat on Nikolai's other side, in a deep blue dress, the prayer book in her lap, and the repaired music box on the table before her. Mara had insisted. Elise had objected. Nikolai had looked at his grandmother's hand on the music box and said, "Let her keep it." When the speeches began, Mara stayed near the back wall. She felt Agent Penn somewhere in the building, though she could not see her. She felt every note in her pocket. The doctor's confirmation, the copied lab result from the tonic, the pharmacy order Celia had placed under another patient's name, the dates, the pattern, everything a powerful room needed before it granted an old woman the dignity of belief. Nikolai rose first. Applause softened around him. He thanked the guests for coming. He spoke of family, loyalty, legacy. Vivienne watched him with shining eyes, made for cameras. Then, before he could announce the wedding date, Zora stood. The theater quieted strangely, not all at once, but in ripples. Nikolai turned. Vivienne's smile froze. Zora ignored them both. She walked slowly around the table, one hand on the back of each chair for balance. A server moved to help. She waved him away. She crossed the floor until she stood directly in front of Mara. Mara forgot how to breathe. Zora looked at her as if no one else existed. "This one," she said. A nervous laugh moved through the room. Vivienne rose gracefully. "Grandmother, come sit with us." "I am not your grandmother." Zora's voice was thin but sharp enough to cut silk. "And I do not want you as Nikolai's wife." The room froze. Vivienne's face changed only slightly. That was almost worse. "She's tired," she said gently to the guests. "This disease can make emotional moments very difficult." Zora turned toward her. "I saw you with Dorian in the winter garden." Dorian stopped moving. Nikolai went completely still. Zora lifted one trembling hand and touched her own cheek. "He touched you like a lover. You told him I had to be unreliable. You told me if I spoke, I would wake up inland." Vivienne's eyes flashed. "This is cruel. She is confused, and you are all letting her embarrass herself." "No," Nikolai said. "One word. Quiet. Terrible." Vivienne turned to him. "Darling." Nikolai did not look at her. He looked at Zora. "Are you certain?" Zora's eyes filled with tears, but her voice did not break. "Yes." Mara stepped forward then, not because she was brave, because Zora had been brave first. Her hand shook as she placed the folder on the nearest table. "I have notes," she said. Her voice sounded small in that huge room, so she made it steady. Dates, visitors, meals, sleep, changes in behavior. Mrs. Voss's worst episodes happened after she was given a tonic by Nurse Celia Brandt. I saved a sample. Dr. Havel reviewed the ingredients. The drug was not approved for her and can worsen confusion in elderly patients. Vivienne laughed once. "This is absurd." Mara opened the folder. The pharmacy order was placed under another patient's name. The payment went through an account connected to your household foundation. Dorian moved toward the side door. Two of Nikolai's guards stepped in front of him. Mara continued. There is also a recording. The room changed again. Vivian looked at Dorian, only for half a second. Long enough. Mara did not play the whole thing. She did not need to. Zora's talking frame had captured enough. Vivian's voice filled the theater, soft and poisonous, saying Zora had to be made unreliable before the gala. Dorian's voice answered. Guests stopped pretending not to understand. Zora's doctor stood from a side table, pale but firm. I reviewed the material. Mrs. Voss is unusually clear tonight, and there is credible medical concern that her symptoms were intentionally worsened. The room turned away from Vivian slowly, like a tide withdrawing from a drowning thing. Vivian's beautiful face hardened. You are all listening to a senile woman and a desperate fat servant. Mara flinched, though she hated herself for it. Nikolai looked at Vivian then. Something in his eyes had gone beyond anger. Enough. You think she cares about your grandmother, Vivian snapped. She saw a lonely man and a dying old woman, and found a ladder. Nikolai's voice lowered. Leave my hotel. Nikolai. Leave, he said. Before I forget, this room has witnesses. That was the end of the gala. Not with music, not with an announcement. With chairs scraping, whispers spreading, and Vivian Armand being escorted from the gilded lantern, while Zora sat down heavily and reached for Mara's hand. For 1 hour, Mara believed the worst was over. Then Dorian played his final card. He found Nikolai in the private hall outside Zora's suite and threw photographs onto the table between them. Mara at the bus station. Mara speaking with Agent Penn. Mara taking an envelope. Mara looking over her shoulder like someone with secrets. Nikolai stared at the photographs. Mara stood across from him and felt every warm thing between them go cold. Dorian's voice was smooth. She's been with the authorities. How much of tonight was hers, and how much was theirs? Nikolai looked at Mara. Is it true? Mara could have explained immediately. She could have begged. She could have cried. She could have told him that she met the agent because no one in his house would believe Zora without proof. Instead, something tired and proud rose inside her. Yes, she said. I met her. His face changed. Not much. Enough. Dorian almost smiled. Mara lifted her chin. I asked one question. If your grandmother was removed by legal papers, could anyone protect her? That was all I wanted. Nikolai's jaw tightened. You should have come to me. For months she came to you, Mara said, in the only way she could, and you checked schedules instead of believing her. The words hit him. She saw it. Good. Let them. I will not stand here and beg you to believe me, Mara continued. I watched Zora do that until it broke her. I won't make myself that small for you. Then she left. No one stopped her. Maybe Nikolai ordered them not to. Maybe they were too shocked. Mara packed her suitcase with hands that felt too calm. Zora cried when Mara came to say goodbye, and that nearly ended her. Mara held the old woman, smelling lemon soap and salt air, and the faint metal sweetness of the music box nearby. You stayed, Zora whispered, as long as I could. Come back. Mara closed her eyes. Not like this. She walked out of the gilded lantern before dawn, with the ocean wind pushing at her back, and her whole heart aching like a bruise. Without her, Zora faded in small, stubborn ways. She ate less. She stopped asking for stew because no one made it right. She held the music box, but would not wind it. Each morning, she asked for Mara, and each morning Nikolai had no answer worthy of her. He tried. That was the cruelest part. He tried to sit with his grandmother and discovered he did not know how to be still without turning silence into strategy. He tried to make the stew and burned the garlic until the kitchen filled with smoke. He tried to braid Zora's hair and tangled the ribbon so badly she called him a pirate with thumbs. He tried to repair the music box after it jammed again and broke the key clean in half. Power, he learned, could buy the hotel, silence a room, frighten enemies, and move money through 10 cities before sunrise. It could not make soup taste like memory. It could not make an old woman trust a hand that had doubted her. It could not call Mara back without becoming another command. So Nikolai did what he should have done before. He investigated the people closest to him: Dorian's private accounts, Vivian's calls, Celia's payments, legal drafts hidden behind polite names, marriage rights, guardianship language, casino shares, dock access. A plan divided cleanly between silk and blood. Vivian would take the legitimate empire. Dorian would take the underground routes. Zora had not been drugged because she was weak. She had been drugged because she was a witness. Then Nikolai found the full report from Agent Penn. Mara had asked for no money, no protection, no revenge, no immunity. She had given one recording and one warning: protect Zora if they try to move her. That truth did what threats never had. It humbled him. Dorian vanished from the Gilded Lantern before dawn and was found by federal agents before noon, trying to board a private boat with 3 passports and enough diamonds to make betrayal look almost practical. Vivian's family tried to bury the scandal. Agent Penn did not let them. Nikolai gave the authorities just enough of Dorian's network to destroy the scheme, and just enough of his own world to begin cutting out the rot. Not all of it. Men like Nikolai did not become saints because love embarrassed them. But routes changed. Rooms closed. Names disappeared from payrolls. The hotel became quieter in a different way. Mara did not return. Zora sent letters. Some were clear. Some were only 3 words. Bread girl, see today. Mara kept every one. With the reward from recovered accounts Zora had quietly placed in her name, Mara paid her father's last debt, cleared her sister's court fees, finished her certification, and opened a small home care service above a bakery in a town where rent was still too high, but the windows opened toward morning light. She hired women like herself, women people overlooked, women who knew how to sit through hard nights without needing applause. Months passed before Nikolai came to her, not with guards, not with a car waiting at the curb like a threat pretending to be convenience. He came alone, wearing a dark coat damp from rain, standing in the doorway of her small office, while Mara finished labeling medication logs for a patient whose daughter could only pay in installments. "You look different here," he said. Mara did not stand. "I look employed. You were employed before." "No," she said. "Before, I was useful." He accepted that because it was true. The silence between them was no longer sharp, but it was not soft either. It had work to do. "Zora misses you," he said. Mara's hand paused over the folder. "I miss her. She wants you to visit. Then she can ask me." She did. He took an envelope from his coat and placed it on the desk. Inside was a note written in shaky blue ink. "Mara Solano, come see the sea before I forget how to complain about it." Mara laughed, and then hated that her eyes burned. Nikolai watched her carefully. "I am not here to offer your job back." "Good. I am not here to rescue you. Better. I am here because I was wrong." Mara looked up. He did not dress the words. He did not make them elegant. "You told the truth. Zora told the truth. I chose the version that cost me less. That failure was mine." Mara's throat tightened despite herself. "And what do you want now?" "A chance," he said. "Not as your employer, not as a man giving orders, just as a man asking." Mara studied him for a long moment. The feared Nikolai Voss stood in her little office with rain on his shoulders, and no empire between them that she was willing to recognize. "I will not live hidden inside your hotel," she said. "I know. I will not be staff. I know. I will not be your soft place to rest when your world gets ugly." His eyes lowered briefly, then returned to hers. "I know. And if you ever use power where honesty is required, I will leave." "Yes," he said. Mara leaned back. "You say yes very easily." "No," Nikolai said. "I say it carefully." She did not forgive him that day. Not fully. Some things should not be handed back too fast simply because a powerful man finally learned to ask. But she did visit Zora. The balcony at the Gilded Lantern looked over a silver sea. Evening had softened the hotel into gold again. But Mara saw the building differently now, not as a palace, not as a cage, as a place that had almost erased an old woman and failed because one person had stayed close enough to hear her. Zora sat wrapped in a shawl made from one of her old scarves, the repaired music box on the small table beside her. Mara had fixed the key herself before coming. The tune played unevenly, but it played. Nikolai stood near the doorway, far enough away to give them the moment without pretending he was not desperate to witness it. Zora reached for Mara's hand. Her fingers were thin and warm. "I remember you," she said. Mara smiled through the ache in her chest. "Today?" Zora looked offended. "Do not be greedy. Today is what we have." Then she pressed something into Mara's palm. A ring. Old gold. Small diamonds worn smooth with time. Mara's breath caught. "Zora, no. Yes. I can't take this. You can." People say that when they mean they are afraid to be seen receiving what they deserve. Mara closed her fingers around the ring, because refusing would have been easier, and Zora deserved better than easy. "It belonged to Abram," Zora said, "then to me. Now it belongs near someone who remembered me when everyone else tried to make me disappear." Mara looked down, tears slipping before she could stop them. Zora touched her cheek. "Mara Solano." For a moment, the whole balcony went still. The sea. The music box. Nikolai by the door. Mara's own heart. Zora had said her full name without hesitation. Nikolai heard it too. Mara knew by the way his face changed. Not with possession, not with victory, but with understanding. Love was not taking. It was not keeping. It was not moving people into safer rooms without asking whether they wanted the door closed. Love was believing someone when disbelief would be easier. Love was staying close without standing in the way. Love was learning the difference between protection and control before the person you loved had to survive you too. Zora leaned back, tired but smiling. The music box turned its small, broken song into the ocean air. Mara looked at Nikolai across the balcony. He did not come closer. He waited. And this time, because the choice was hers, Mara held out her hand.